When you think of crocodilians, what images typically come to mind? Movie monsters? Banana thieves? Steve Irwin? Probably a lot of Florida men. But if you're Mother Nature, you probably see them as a tick that refuses to be burned off the skin. Whether it's a crocodile, an alligator, or a gharial, they shrug off adversity like a piece of seaweed stuck to your back after swimming. In this video, we'll explore all the different incarnations these scaly reptiles have taken throughout human culture and prehistory. And we'll see that, no matter the time, place, or incarnation, death for these living fossils is merely a suggestion. No crocodilians enjoy more notoriety in popular culture than the archenemy of Donkey Kong and his family, K. Rool and the Kremling Crew. Having appeared in Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, 3, and Donkey Kong 64, before being yeeted into the Shadow Realm, then resurrecting for Smash, and then hijacking DK Bonanza. The developers of the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy, Rare, were granted the opportunity to revive the Donkey Kong series after impressing Nintendo with some new technology that could allow for pseudo 3D graphics to run on the Super Famicom/SNES. And this revitalization necessitated creating a new archenemy for the Kongs now that they were taking the protagonist role. And of all the different animals one might find in the same parts of the real world where apes exist, crocodiles are a natural choice if you're looking for a big scary creature to use as a main enemy. And like a true archenemy, there is no death, only stalling. The only other notable crocodilian in the realm of gaming is Croc from Croc Legend of the Gobos, a game most notorious for the fact that it was originally conceived as a 3D Yoshi game. The game sees Croc raised by a race of creatures called Gobos and must set out on a quest to rescue them from the evil Baron Dante and restore harmony to Gobbo Valley. Croc teaches us an important lesson of game development. When you have a retooled project that you don't want to be cancelled, you change your main character into the creature that survived the asteroid. Jaws, released in 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg and based on the book by Peter Benchley, was a massive hit. Alongside its primary achievement of being the first summer blockbuster, the movie kicked off an entire subgenre of natural horror. Examples of natural horror were scant prior to the release of Jaws. But from the late 70s onward, any animal that could be perceived as a monster, even if completely unjustified, was given movie monster stardom. The first big example of a crocodilian as the villain of a natural horror movie was the 1980 movie Alligator, drawing upon a famous modern urban legend. This movie tells the story of a gigantic American alligator living in a sewer and killing anyone it comes across. The movie spawned a direct-to-video sequel in 1991, Alligator 2: The Mutation, and, of all things, a board game in 1980. But crocodiles would get their time in the crimson-tinted limelight before long, kicking off with the 1999 film Lake Placid. Not much variation in plot exists between these movies. Swap out the New York sewer for a freshwater lake and an alligator for a crocodile, and bam, original idea. In the eyes of Hollywood, Lake Placid ended up spawning several sequels over the 2000s. Lake Placid 2, 3, The Final Chapter, except not really, and then several imitators, including Crocodile, Blood Surf, Blackwater, Croc.
It's Hollywood, baby.
But if there's one thing these films get right, it's the futility of trying to inflict damage to an armored, dinosaur-adjacent reptile. Fights in the Roman Colosseum were amazing, brutal spectacles. And among the many different kinds of games one could witness inside the arena, fights of man versus beast were among the most harrowing. At the height of the Roman Empire in the 2nd century AD, Rome had control over half of modern-day Europe, and all land bordering the Mediterranean, including the Nile River. And this gave them access to Nile crocodiles. The method for capturing these aquatic predators is recounted by ancient Roman natural historian Pliny the Elder, who says that natives from along the Nile's banks of short stature, called tentirite, were the only people who dare attack it. They even swim in the river after it, and mount its back like so many horsemen. And just as the animal turns up its head for the purpose of biting them, they insert a club into its mouth, holding which at each end, with the 2 hands, it acts like a bit, and by these means they drive the captured animal on shore. The ancient Romans helped drive many species to extinction in the games, including aurochs, European lions, and North African elephants, but not Nile crocodiles, obviously. Of all the different incarnations of crocodilians, the lineages buried in deep time best exhibit their secret invincibility perk. Crocodile-like animals first evolved in the Triassic period, with the lineage named Pseudosuchia being a close relative of dinosaurs. But crocodilians, as science defines them, didn't evolve until the Cretaceous era, and it's here where the seeds of their invincibility were planted. And like Jack and the Beanstalk, that seed grew sky high. Like I said before, crocodilians survived the asteroid, and in greater numbers than most other lineages, because the post-impact Cenozoic era saw crocodilians encroaching upon the land. The most famous example of this push onto land was Bovirasuchus. Imagine a wolf, but as a crocodile. Now imagine that razor-toothed predator existing in the same world as you. But as the Cenozoic era progressed, the climate got cooler, gradually shifting control of the world from cold-blooded reptiles like crocodilians to warm-blooded mammals. A valiant attempt it was, but even Mother Nature's cryogenic rest couldn't erase the crocodilian lineage. But why? Why can they always hang on by a thread? Because crocodilians employ what I like to call the restaurant tactic. The restaurant tactic is a simple strategy, but one that only a creature with the crocodilian body plan can employ, and only from a poikilothermic animal that requires less food to function than us mammals. First step, arrive at the waterfront eatery. Second step, seat thyself. Third step, wait for the menu to arrive. And the final step, thank you for watching. If you have anything you'd like to say, any and all feedback is appreciated. Special thanks to Mutanto Basuta for the X Compass. Go show him your support. Best wishes.